Welcome to my Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials course. This should be the CCNA version 7 curriculum. This is the second of 3 courses. Module 13, Wireless LAN Configuration. So we're going to be focusing on configuring our wireless LANs. We have 3 main types of scenarios that we're going to be doing this with. Remote site configuration, basic wireless LAN on a wireless LAN controller, and then we're going to do a WPA2 enterprise wireless LAN on a wireless LAN controller. Those are our main types, and we actually do have several labs walking us through these as well. We're also going to end with troubleshooting common wireless configuration issues. So let's go and jump right on in. Remote site wireless configuration. So first of all, the video, it's played through Netacad, so we won't have it, but it's going to be showing us how to set up a wireless router through the web portal. We actually have a lab walking us through the exact same thing, so we're good there. If we're looking at a traditional small office, medium office router, or combo-based unit, it's going to be a router, it's going to be a switch, it's going to be an access point all rolled into one. And a lot of the feature sets are going to be dependent on the model. Here we have a Cisco Meraki router. And again, part of that's licensing, part of its features. It all depends on what we're paying for that unit. Typical home routers are going to look very similar. It's going to be an access point, it's going to be a switch, it's going to be a router all rolled into one. Those units are all-in-one based units. So what you do is you essentially log into the router itself. Normally the default username and password are admin, but it's just dependent on your device. A basic setup would be log into the router, change the default admin password, look at the IP information that it's going to be handing out to the LAN, maybe change it if necessary, renew your IP address, log back into the router if necessary. You want to look at the wireless functionality as well, looking at the wireless LAN, identifying what wireless standard you're going to be using. Is it A, is it B, is it G, is it N, is it AC? Then you're going to configure the name, SSID. You're going to make sure that you have the appropriate channel set, 1, 6, or 11, but that's all depending on your environment. Next, you're going to set the security. Are you going to leave it open? Are you going to set it to WPA? Are you going to set it to WEP? Whatever your security requirements are, you make sure to do that. Next, you're going to be configuring the passphrase. That way you can ensure that there's a password on your wireless network. We may have an environment that we have multiple access points. So that's where we want to make sure we're checking channel coverage. That way, we don't have multiple devices on the same wireless channel. Normally, if we're looking at extenders, that's going to be anything outside 45 meters. If we're talking outdoors, it's going to be anything over 90 meters. We want to add extenders. For our NAT, normally this is done automatically, but our NAT is what's going to take our private IPs and NAT them to a global or a public IP. This is done automatic on the router. This is a Linksys style router. That's pretty common where it's all automatic. If you have a business class router, you may have to set up NAT. There's also IPv6 availability if necessary. More and more routers also have a QoS based setup. That way you can prioritize traffic based off of policies. If it's video, if it's web traffic, if it's torrents, you can now set QoS priorities based off of what type of traffic they are. In a small office, you may also have to do port forwarding. If you have like a gaming device, you may actually have to log into the router to set up the appropriate port forwarding. And again, we have a lab covering this aspect of it as well. So one of our first packet tracers is configuring a wireless network, connecting, configuring it, and then configuring it appropriately based off of requirements. We also have another one setting up a device as well, and it being functional remotely. Our next section is about configuring a basic wireless LAN on a wireless LAN controller. So we're going to be walking through the topology, accessing the GUI, configuring and securing new wireless LANs. So here is our topology. We have a radius server or a management server. We have an access point. We have a wireless LAN controller, and we have some address information. On one of the PCs, navigate to the address of our wireless controller. So we have to configure the wireless controller. It's not much different from configuring a wireless router. It's just you have to work through it. And we definitely have a lab walking us through step by step how to do this. Once you're in the controller, you want to click on the access points, and that way you can see access point information. This is a very common page for loading our wireless LAN controllers. This is what the wireless LAN controller would look like. So we can click on things like monitor or advanced or the summary pages so we can configure some of this. And again, we have a lab walking us through step by step what to do and how to do it. This is what the physical device looks like. It is a layer 2 switch port. It also has a virtual interface that are created in the software as well, similar to VLANs. The ports on the wireless controller are essentially trunk ports that can carry traffic between multiple VLANs. Looking at the labeling of the device, we have a management port and we have switch ports, so do pay attention. So, how do we do our basic configuration? Basic wireless configuration is 7 main steps. First, create the wireless LAN. Next, enable the wireless LAN. Select the appropriate interface, secure it, verify operational integrity, monitor, and then view wireless clients. So, how we do that? We create a wireless LAN by clicking on the wireless LAN tab, and we have the ability to create our LAN there. We would give it our SSID, and we would give it an ID if necessary. Once created, we would be looking at our wireless LAN settings. We have the ability to enable or disable once it's been created. From there, we can now select interfaces. That's going to be the appropriate interface or interfaces for our group. Once we are done with the general, we can click on the security tab. That allows us to set our security. In our basic function, we'll be doing a pre-shared key or PSK. You'd be setting the PSK as well. Next, you'd be underneath our wireless LANs. We would be verifying the access points are there and operational. We would go back to the main monitor tab, and we can see our SSID and we can see the number of clients that are connected. Lastly, from our monitoring, we would be able to see connected clients. That will give us detailed information like the MAC address and IP address, as well as other information. We have a lab walking you through all of those steps as well. Questions, concerns, please reach out. Thank you.